Okay, welcome everyone. So now we've gone through and created a Quarto project for our website, or you've copied the project in Posit Cloud into your personal account. And then we all have access to the same files that we're going to edit using essentially the same application. So just to be clear, if you're working in Posit Cloud, um, or whether you're working in our studio is a separate window that I'm not sharing with you. Things will look the same. So just to stay at this website, the main files that we're going to be working with are going to be the underscore quarto.yml. So this is what we call a YAML file. So this is going to control some of the various like overall style of our website and which things we want to include in various pages on our website. So this is kind of the main hub for the design and which files we're going to use to build the website. There is a .gitignore file since when I created the project for this Quarto website, I selected that this was a Git project. So it created this gitignore file. And there are just some files in the background that are created when you run these R code in these projects. And you don't necessarily want to version control every single file into the directory. There are some hidden files that I don't want to copy into my GitHub repository, for example. So there are just some instructions in that file that you'll never have to edit. In this instance, you'll never have to edit it. But you can customize it as you get good with Git, but you're not going to edit this file at all. But that's what's going on. There's just some meta commands in here that are instructing Git which files to version control and which files maybe, or more specifically, which files not to version control. There is an index.qmd file. We're going to be editing that. That's going to essentially be a homepage for our website. There is an about.qmd page that's created where they think maybe you want to have a homepage that isn't about yourself, and then you want to have a separate link on your homepage to an about website that just has a bunch of info about yourself. So we're really not going to be editing the about.qmd file. There's a project file that we're not going to do anything with, and there's a styles.css file that we're not going to do anything with. If you're really good with that, developing websites, you could create some custom styles for your website that you can use over here. But the main files that we're going to be working with are the underscore Quarto YAML, a index.qmd, and we'll create some additional files down the line. So I am going to go over into our studio to start to work with this file, but there's a useful link here that talks about these general files that are involved in working with Quarto websites. So feel free to check that out. The instructions over here you can refer to, but I'll be narrating through them and working in our studio. Okay, so I am looking at the underscore Quarto YAML. I'm just going to call this the YAML file right now, and you can see there's pretty minimal information in here. It's just saying this project is website. This is the title of the project. These are some files that are going to be called into the website. So the home page is going to be index.qmd. If I wanted to change the home page, I can. There's also an about.qmd file, and then this is giving some information about the HTML file that's going to be created, which themes are being used, for example, and whether there's going to be a table of contents created. So there's some kind of overriding information just about the style of the website and which pages are going to be called in. That's what goes on in the YAML file. The index file, this is my home page. So when I create this website, the home page is going to just display this information. So this is just the default that is created when we say create a Quarto website. So this is not very interesting, but at least it shows you how to include a link in your work and how to include our code cells if you want to include those. So the first thing I want to do before I render anything is I want to change the output directory of this website. So I can go ahead and go into the Quarto YAML, and I'm going to insert the following text just below the website. I'm going to put an output directory, and I'm going to set the output directory to docs. So when I knit this file, it's going to create some HTML files. We'll see them being built in the file panel over here. And then all of the files that are going to be used to build the HTML, to build the website, are going to be stored in a file called in a directory called docs. By default, it stores it to a directory called _site. But because we're going to publish this in GitHub Pages, we want this directory specifically to be called docs. So that's why we're doing this step at this stage. So whether you're in RStudio or whether you're in Posit Cloud, first thing I want you to do is in this Quarto YAML file, add this line just below the type website line. The indentations in this file are important. These are not stylistic. So you want to make sure it's indented the same amount as the type command. And once you've changed that, you can save the file. So it's no longer appearing in red up here. And then you can go to the index QMD file. And when I'm on this file, there is a render button. When I'm on the YAML file, there is no render button. So I'm going to go to the index.qmd, and I'm going to click the render button. So this button used to be called the knit button. So if I ever say knit by accident, I'm trying to update my lingo. If I ever say the knit button, what I really mean is the render button. So then we're going to click on the render button, and this is running, and you can see a directory over here was created called docs. It's creating some intermediate files, and then it has created my website, and at least on my computer, website has opened. You just can't see it because we're looking at our markdown. Okay, and so here was the website that was created. This is not a very exciting website. So the title of the website by default was the directory name, which was demo site. There is a home page and there is an about page. And I have not rendered the file about.qmd. So that file, if I click on that link, it will have to render itself. It will take a second. But I did render the index.qmd file. And so this is what that file, it created an HTML file. You should be familiar with taking a Quarto document and creating an HTML file from it. So we're just doing that process. But these are a couple of files that are linked together, and then together they're going to build a nicer website, and I can publish this website online. Right now, looking at my browser, this is just a HTML file that I'm opening locally on my computer. This is not something that anybody in the world could view unless they hacked my computer. So I want to take this website, make it public, and give it a nice address that other people can easily get to. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. If you didn't see the web page open up when you clicked the render button, then what you can do is click in the docs, and you can come over here, for example, and click on this and choose view in web browser, and it's going to open the index page in the web browser, for example. But it should open it by default the first time you run it. And once you've got this file created, this folder that's called docs, that has these HTML files that are going to be used to build our website, you're now ready to go on to the next video in the next stage, where we're going to push these files up into our remote main GitHub repo, and then we're going to be ready to publish those, and they'll have a public website.